The rulers of the stars, the Thalrex Dominion, had existed for more than 10,000 cycles across the galaxy. Their flags had been raised on planets where the sky once belonged to others. Their ships had cut through the stars like blades through water. For the Thalrex, every world was a resource and every species was a subject. They had grown in numbers. They had grown in pride. And they had forgotten what it felt like to be challenged. Their records were full of victories. Their enemies had been turned into workers or vanished entirely. They had machines that could rewrite DNA and weapons that could erase mountains. Every time they faced a new race, they sent one message first: obey or be erased. Most obeyed. Those who didn't never got a second chance. Earth was marked in their system. It sat near the edge of a minor spiral arm. According to old probes, it was a blue planet with signs of oxygen and water. Basic technology, radio signals, nothing of real value. A note in the Thalrex database said low threat. The Council had ignored it for many years. Then a new signal came from that region, a frequency pulsing with energy. The Thalrex scanned it again. There were changes, artificial satellites, bursts of coded language. The machines reported patterns. Something had advanced. The Council gave a quiet nod. They would send a minor fleet. A standard 3-vessel squad. Enough to show presence. Enough to claim and leave. The fleet was led by Commander Varn. He was known for speed and silence. He had conquered 4 systems before this. Earth would be the 5th. The Thalrex ships entered orbit without a word. No challenge, no resistance. They began scanning the surface. Cities, networks, machines. Their reports started showing higher levels of intelligence than expected. Varn requested a message be sent to Earth's leaders. His communication officers tried to open contact instead of a reply. A strange signal returned. It was not a message of peace. It was not a cry for help. It was a sound. Music played in rising beats. Then a voice in their own language said one thing: "We see you. You are not welcome here." The crew exchanged looks. No race had ever spoken like that to the Thalrex. Varn ordered a scan of Earth's defenses, missiles, jets, nothing the Dominion feared. He told his officers to proceed. Prepare landing units. Begin soft invasion. The humans would understand soon as the landing craft moved down through the sky. Something unexpected happened. Their ships lost contact. One by one, signals dropped. At first they thought it was interference from the atmosphere. But the readings made no sense. Radar loops, fake returns, false coordinates. Earth was creating noise. But not just noise. It was targeting the weaknesses of the Thalrex systems. Back on the command ship, alarms began to flash. The navigational data started spinning. The artificial intelligence guiding their fleet was losing control. The systems were not hacked but confused. Earth's response was not brute force. It was clever, precise, surgical disruption of everything they relied on. Varn ordered the fleet to rise. Pull back, analyze. They tried to move, but the engines of one ship failed. A sudden magnetic pulse hit it from below. Not from a weapon. From something hidden underground. The ship crashed into the ocean. No one had fired. No one had aimed. It was the planet itself that was fighting back. The 2 remaining ships hovered in low orbit, scanning, searching. They found no large-scale army, no great defense stations. Yet every attempt to control the airspace failed. Drones shot down their scouts. Satellites blinded their vision. Earth was covered with tools that had one goal: disrupt and resist. Varn sat in silence. His officers waited. In all his missions, he had never needed a second wave. He sent a request for more data. The language systems cracked part of the earlier message. It had layers, codes within codes. Earth was using culture as a weapon. It was showing that they were not afraid. One transmission repeated on loop. It was a human face. Calm, sharp eyes. It said one thing again and again. "We are not prey." This message ran across all screens. It interrupted their internal systems. Even their ship log started playing it during access. It was not just noise. It was psychological warfare. One officer stood and asked if they should return. To the council, the commander gave no answer. His mind was racing. If Earth could do this with no fleet in orbit, what could they do if provoked further? They had faced many worlds. None had done this. None had shown defiance in such a calculated way. Vaughn thought of his past victories. All of them followed the same script: land, dominate, control. Earth was breaking that script with every move in the data room. Another officer called out. He had traced several systems across Earth: civilian networks, military zones, hidden layers. Each one different. No central command. Yet all of them working in perfect rhythm. Earth was not run by one leader. It was run by billions of minds adapting every second. The Thalrex were a top-down order. The humans were chaos with a purpose. Every time they shut one signal, another rose. Every time they blocked one frequency, 10 more came alive. The humans were not stopping. They were learning faster than any species the Thalrex had studied. Varn stood at the front of the viewing platform. The blue planet glowed below, calm, peaceful, but now he saw it differently. He saw something hidden beneath that calm. He saw eyes watching from the dark. He saw a species not born to bow. He turned to his crew and gave the first order they never expected. Hold position. Do not engage. Observe. Learn. In the dark of space, the Thalrex ships drifted in silence. Earth did not fire. Earth did not run. Earth waited. And that silence spoke louder than any weapon. They had come to take a weak world, but what they found was something else. Something that did not fit their rules. Something that would not be easy to tame. What they found was humanity. And this time, the game was not the same. First contact. First shock. The Thalrex ship stayed in low orbit above Earth. Days passed, but nothing was clear. Every attempt to study the planet met confusion. The humans sent no direct messages. They showed no signs of surrender. Instead, they sent strange broadcasts full of moving images and layered sounds. Some made the Thalrex crew laugh. Some made them uneasy. The humans were not asking questions. They were showing confidence. Commander. Varn watched the screen without blinking. His officers studied the data, but the patterns made no sense. Earth did not behave like a weak world. Their systems were active in ways the Thalrex had never seen before. Even civilian networks responded to scans as if they had defenses built into them. One night, the sky around the fleet shifted. A human satellite appeared near their formation. It was not armed, but it carried a message in coded pulses. When cracked, it said one thing again. "We know where you are. We know who you are. We are ready." Varn ordered a landing test in a remote desert. A team of drones moved toward the surface with full shields. Before they could land, a strange signal hit them from the ground. Their controls froze. The drones began to fall from the sky in straight lines. Each one crashed without damage to the surroundings. It was not an attack. It was a message. "We can take your tools without fire," the crew whispered among themselves. None had seen a world like this. Earth had no warships in orbit. No massive weapons. On the ground. Yet every action from the Thalrex was blocked or turned away. One officer suggested that humans had outside help. Another said humans were simply lucky. Varn did not agree. He had studied hundreds of species. This was not luck. This was preparation. A new attempt was made in the northern lands. This time they sent a scout pod with stealth features. It entered the atmosphere unnoticed. It flew low above the forests and scanned human buildings. Nothing special was found. Then it moved toward a large city. Suddenly the feed went black. The pod vanished from all sensors. 10 minutes later, the command ship received a package of data. It came from the pod. The final message said it had been captured, not destroyed. Captured by humans using non-energy tools. This shook the officers deeply. No species had ever taken control of Thalrek's tech so quickly. The systems in that pod were locked by over 90 codes. Somehow the humans had read them. No damage, no trace of energy weapons. Just clever disruption. Earth was turning every move into a lesson. And they were learning faster than anyone expected. Varn stood in the center of the war room. The lights were dim. Screens flashed. Warnings, but he ignored them. He looked at the human broadcasts being studied by his communication team. They showed clips of history, wars, flights to the moon, broken cities rebuilt, machines turning soil, art formed with sound. He saw something more than defense. He saw a pattern of endless change. Humans were not strong in the way the Thalreks knew strength. They had limits. Their bodies were soft. Their weapons were not the largest. But their strength came from something deeper. They were not waiting to be attacked. They were moving under the surface like waves before a storm. More data arrived from probes across the planet. Every place scanned revealed something strange. Energy sources placed in unexpected locations. Signals bouncing through the atmosphere with no clear point of origin. Drones flying without clear heat patterns. It was as if Earth itself had grown a brain and was now thinking back at the fleet. The commander gave a soft order. Prepare silent. Probes, no signals, no beams, just watchers. They dropped them in orbit and linked them only by physical relays. For the first time they received clean images. And what they saw made the crew step back. Humans were building something large in their skies. A station hidden behind their moon. It was not part of the public networks. It was not listed in their own old probe logs. It was new, built fast, built in secret, and it carried parts that did not match Earth's known tech. Varn leaned forward. He knew what he was looking at. Reverse engineering. Earth had found something not their own and had used it to rise. A message came through again. It was not sound. It was video. A human speaking in a calm voice. No threats, no fear. The voice said, "This is our home. We will not bow. You are not welcome. We offer no peace, but we offer no war unless you bring it." Varn closed the screen. He walked to the edge of the command platform and looked down at Earth. He saw cities glowing in the dark. He saw storms over oceans. He saw a planet that had been underestimated. He saw a people who had studied war and survived it. A people who had failed before but never stayed down. One officer reported that 2 allied ships in nearby systems had also detected human signals. Earth was broadcasting into deep space. But not calls for help. Not cries of fear, warnings, direct messages to all who listened. Do not come. Do not repeat the mistake of the Dominion. Varn gave orders to halt all landings. He knew they had made an error. Earth was not weak. Earth was waiting. And now they had shown their hand inside the ship. The air grew heavy. Officers no longer laughed. They watched Earth not as prey, but as a rising force. The kind of force that could turn a hunter into a memory. Across the stars, other species began to notice. The Thalreks had never been challenged before. Now they had met a wall that did not break. And that wall had a name. Humanity. The fleet floated above Earth in silence. The stars blinked in the distance. The crew waited for new orders. But deep down many of them already knew. This was no longer a simple mission. This was something else. This was the first crack in the mirror of Thalrek's power, and the ones who made that crack were not giants. They were not machines. They were people from a blue world. And they had just begun to show what they could do. Learning fear, the Thalrek ships remained above Earth, in perfect formation. Their lights still blinked. Their systems still worked. But inside their halls, something had changed. The air was no longer full of pride. It carried a weight that no one could name. The crew no longer walked with loud steps. Their eyes searched every screen with quiet worry. Earth had not fired a single powerful weapon. Still, the fear had begun to grow. Commander Varn stood alone in the strategy chamber. Around him floated holograms of Earth's surface, every zone marked with signals, every city pulsing with unseen movement. He stared at the glowing lines that wrapped around the planet. It looked like a net. Not one made of weapons, but one made of intention. Earth was not just living. It was thinking. He turned toward the walls where battle records from past missions played in loops. Planet after planet had fallen in less than a cycle. Most had begged for peace. Some had resisted, but only for hours. None had forced the Thalrex to stop. Until now, a report came in from the southern skies. One of their scout drones had been recovered by humans and was being paraded through a public space. The footage showed people cheering, children pointing, scientists discussing its parts openly. The drone was not hidden in a lab. It was being studied in the open, like a prize from the hunt, and it was already disabled without damage. Not with lasers, not with force, but with understanding. The communication team reported that human languages were spreading across their channels, not as messages but as layered jokes, as riddles, as strange plays of logic and irony. One officer said it was meant to confuse. Another said it was meant to teach. Varn believed it was something else. It was a test. He called for a full scan of the largest human data networks. The AI systems of the fleet began searching but failed to understand the structure. Human data moved like rivers without end. Files mixed with thoughts, codes wrapped inside humor. The more they searched, the deeper the confusion grew. The systems began to loop. One AI unit shut itself down to prevent overload. The humans had turned information into a maze back on Earth. Strange patterns formed across landscapes. From orbit they appeared as symbols carved into the fields. Messages not made for crops, made for those watching from above. Simple words in large form. Do not assume. Do not step forward. Turn back before it becomes a lesson. The ground team prepared for another test. They wanted to drop a probe inside one of the oceans. This time they used full shield cover and no signal. The probe entered without notice. It sank below the surface. For 2 minutes it collected data, then it vanished. The last image showed a group of objects surrounding it. Small, fast, made of metal but shaped like fish. Underwater drones. Silent, human-made. Earth's oceans were not unguarded. They were part of the defense inside the war room. Varn sat in silence. His thoughts moved faster than his voice. He remembered his early days. He remembered how his teachers had told him that no species would ever match the Thalrex. That power belonged to the bold. That logic was stronger than emotion. But what he saw now told a different truth. Humans were emotional, wild, imperfect. But in that imperfection they had found something greater. Adaptation. Every time a strategy was used, the humans shifted. When a scan was blocked, they sent signals in return. When a ship hovered too low, it faced magnetic winds created by old satellite arrays. Even the space around Earth had been turned into a battlefield without guns. It was not war as the Thalrex knew it. It was war rewritten by a species that had grown through failure and risen through pain. A call came from the border of the system. One of the Thalrex listening posts had picked up a new signal. A human ship was leaving orbit. It was small. No weapons detected. But it moved with purpose. It broadcast one clear message. We will not hide. We will not run. We are coming to talk. Varn ordered the ship to be tracked but not attacked. He wanted to see more. He needed to understand what humans planned next. The ship passed near the fleet. Its lights blinked in patterns. The same pattern used by deep-sea animals on Earth. A language of survival. A way to speak without sound. It moved past and left the system without fear in. The next hour, 3 more human ships launched, all small, all unarmed, all moving toward nearby stars. The humans were not waiting. They were stepping into the galaxy. Varn faced his officers. He asked them what they saw. Some said humans were reckless. Others said humans were clever. One officer, younger than most, stood and spoke. With care, he said humans had learned from every world war, from every natural disaster, from every mistake. They had built strength not in their muscles but in their minds, and they were now turning that strength outward. Silence fell over the room. It was not the silence of space. It was the silence of truth. For the first time in history, the Thalrex had met a species that refused to fear them, a species that had no grand ships, no super weapons, only willpower and memory and the fire of survival from across the stars. Other species had begun to listen. Secret messages spread through hidden channels. Earth had stood without bending. Earth had faced the Dominion and had not fallen. Whispers began to form. If humans can stand, then so can we. Varn looked at the Earth once more. He saw not a planet but a mirror that showed them what they had forgotten. That strength is not just in force. It is in refusal. It is in rising when all odds say fall. The fleet remained in place. Orders were slow. Thoughts were heavy. Earth had not won a war, but they had won something deeper. They had made the Thalrex pause. And in that pause, fear was born not for what humans were now, but for what they might become. Cracks in the Empire. The Thalrex Dominion had ruled with silence and power for ages. No one questioned their voice. No one stood against their fleets. But now whispers had begun. Small voices on far planets. Hidden signals in corners of the galaxy. They carried the same message. Earth had not fallen. Earth had resisted. Earth had pushed back inside the main command ship above Earth. The mood had shifted. Commander Varn walked the halls in thought. His crew obeyed, but their eyes were different now. Fear had grown like frost on steel, not because of what Earth had done, but because of what it had not done. It had not surrendered. It had not begged. It had not even fought with full force. Yet the Thalrex stood still. Reports came in from outer systems. A small mining colony had refused orders. They had received human broadcasts, songs, stories, clips of Earth's history, and somehow it had changed them. They no longer feared the Dominion. They wanted to learn the human way. Another report followed. A transport ship carrying Dominion soldiers was denied entry by a planet once loyal. The reason was simple. They had seen humans stand alone. Now they believed others could do the same. The Dominion's grip was no longer firm. Varn called for a High Council transmission. Faces appeared on screen, cold eyes, old minds. They questioned his silence. They demanded action. Earth must be taken. The Thalrex cannot allow weakness, but Varn gave no promise. He spoke only of caution. He spoke of learning. The Council did not approve. They sent a new order. A fresh fleet would arrive. A full force meant to burn Earth and end the doubt. From the edge of the system came the new fleet. 12 ships, heavy class, armed with full power. The ground beneath their wake shivered as they passed. Their commander had no plans for study. His goal was destruction. He sent a message toward Earth. Surrender now. Final warning. No more time on Earth. The humans watched. Their skies had darkened again. But this time they did not look with fear. They looked with focus. All across the planet lights came on. Fields opened. Launch pads revealed hidden crafts. Civilian and military minds came together. Not in panic. In purpose. The Thalrex fleet began to move. Their weapons charged. Their engines roared. But before they reached orbit, fire lit the sky. It was not human weapons. It was not missiles. It was a ship, one that did not belong to Thalrex design. One that flew with speed never seen before. It was dark in color, sharp in form. It moved like thought through space. The signal came seconds later. The voice was human, calm and clear. This ship was once yours. Now it is ours. We learned. We changed. And we will not allow harm to our world. The fleet hesitated. Their readings showed truth. The ship was Thalrex made. But it now moved with human controls. It had been taken, studied, rebuilt. It had weapons now turned against its own kind. From behind Earth more ships rose. Not many, not grand, but enough. They flew with unity, not as one army but as one family. The planet had become a fortress not of stone but of will. The Thalrex war commander gave the order to fire. The first blasts moved toward Earth, but before they could strike, a wave of energy pushed them aside. Human systems had created a shield not of size but of speed. The blasts bent, missed, broke apart. The sky turned into a maze. Thalrex ships chased. Human ships moved through gaps. They had learned not just to fight, but to guide the fight. They did not meet force with equal force. They used the Thalrex momentum against them. On the ground, humans launched signal bursts. They blinded enemy sensors. They fed false maps into the Dominion systems. Ships turned in the wrong direction. Targets vanished from view. Earth had become a ghost in its own. Skyvarn watched from his ship. He saw the new fleet struggle. He saw systems fail. He saw fear in the eyes of commanders who once laughed at the name of Earth. He sent no aid. He sent no command. He watched as the truth unfolded. One of the Thalrex dreadnoughts lost control. It drifted into a trap laid by satellites. A magnetic chain pulled it down. It fell not in fire but in silence. Its lights died out before it reached the sea. From across the galaxy, more signals came. Not from Earth, not from Thalrex worlds, but from Watchers. Hidden races, lost colonies. They sent one message. We see you, Earth. We believe a planet once unknown had become a voice that echoed through stars. Not with pride, not with conquest, but with proof. Proof that even giants can fall when small hands join together. Inside the command ship, Varn stood before his crew. He gave one order. Hold all fire. No more attacks. No more loss. He looked at Earth one more time. This time not as prey, not as enemy, but as Mirror. Earth had not just defended itself. It had cracked the shell of the Dominion. It had changed the story, and far beyond this system, eyes now watched Earth, not with fear but with hope. The galaxy had begun to turn. The fall of the believers. The skies above Earth returned to calm. Smoke faded from the stars. Fire turned to silence. The great fleet of the Thalrex hung in space like a broken crown. Ships drifted with damage on their hulls. Lights flickered with confusion. Commands stopped flowing. Signals failed to find their path. The war that never started had already ended. Earth remained in its orbit, strong and unshaken. Human ships circled slowly like guardians of something more than land. They did not chase. They did not strike. They waited with clear purpose. The message had been sent without words. We will not kneel. We will not forget. We are here to stay. Across the Dominion, chaos grew. News moved like wind, fast, unstoppable. A story that carried the weight of truth. Earth had stood against the stars. Earth had turned the tide. Races that once hid in shadows began to speak. Quiet worlds whispered in secret codes. The fear of the Thalrex was cracking. One colony refused its tribute. Another shut down its relay to the central command. A third began to send messages to Earth, asking for knowledge, not safety. These were not acts of rebellion. They were signs of awakening. The great silence of the galaxy had been broken by the voice of a single world. Inside the Thalrex High Command, voices rose in anger. Leaders blamed each other. Some wanted revenge. Some called for retreat. Some begged for unity. None had answers. None could explain how a small planet had changed the course of empires. Commander Varn returned with his ship. His face showed no pride. His voice carried no triumph. He stood before the council and spoke only truth. We were not defeated by weapons. We were defeated by vision. The humans saw what we could not. They prepared for what we ignored. They faced us not with might, but with meaning. The council asked him to plan another strike. He refused. He said another battle would only feed the fire. He said Earth had become more than a place. It had become an idea. And ideas do not fall with force. Silence followed his words, heavy and cold. The council saw what he saw. The Dominion was no longer whole. The grip of fear had slipped. The chain of control had rusted. A new age had begun back on Earth. The people did not cheer with pride. They worked with quiet hands. They built new ships. They repaired what was broken. They reached out to voices in the dark. Not with flags, not with orders, with offers of help, of knowledge, of peace. Humans knew what it felt like to stand alone. They remembered pain. They remembered war. That memory became their gift. A way to speak without arrogance. A way to lead without control. The first allied world was a silent moon near a red star. Its people had lived in fear for generations. Now, they raised their heads and asked for a meeting. The humans came. Without weapons, they listened. They shared. They left behind tools, not commands. Trust grew like fire from a single spark. Soon more planets joined the talks. Old enemies found new voices. Divided races sat at the same tables. The humans did not build an empire. They built a path, one step at a time. Not with power, with presence. A station was built between stars. Not for war, for unity. Ships from every corner of the galaxy docked there. Languages mixed. Cultures met. The station was named Dawn, a name chosen by those who once feared the night. From that place, messages were sent across the stars, not to rule, not to command, to invite, to open doors once sealed by history. The Thalrex watched all this from afar. Their fleets no longer moved without thought. Their colonies no longer followed without question. Many began to speak of change. A new wave grew among them. A belief that perhaps the time of dominance had ended. That maybe it was time to learn instead of lead. One Thalrex general broke the silence. He sent a message to Earth, not of apology, not of shame, a message of respect. He asked for a seat at the table, not above others, beside them. Earth replied with one word. Welcome. Varn left the command halls and walked alone through the chambers of memory. He looked at statues of past conquerors. He passed walls marked with battles won. None of them mattered now. What mattered was the world they could not bend, the people they could not understand, the future they could no longer shape without help. He looked up at the stars and spoke without voice. Thank you, Earth, for showing us who we are, for showing us what we forgot. The story of the Dominion did not end in fire. It ended in reflection. It ended in a turning point. A moment when belief broke and truth entered. The galaxy turned toward a new light, and at the heart of it all was a world once marked as low threat. A world born of struggle. A world built by hands that refused to stop reaching. Earth had become the voice of a new age. They had believed they ruled the galaxy. Until humans proved them wrong. The end.